opportunity to present to you today. If whoever is the host could just pass over permission to me to be for host privileges, I can then go ahead and share my screen in a moment.
Okay.
Jason, you are host now.
Thank you. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. And Derek and team, it's a privilege to see you, and it's been my honor as well to have worked with you for almost the past 4 years, which is amazing. How long we've had the privilege of working with your team, and it's been a really great ride with you all. And I'm excited to be here today to meet with those clinicians who have chose to join us to talk a little bit about the Grateful Patient and Family Philanthropy Program with active clinician engagement. And I do have a bit of a PowerPoint here, which I'll call up in a minute. And it's about probably 25 or 30 minutes or so of a presentation. There's a couple of videos that I'll show along the way as well. And then at the conclusion of my remarks, I will pass it back over to Derek, who will facilitate any questions, answers, or comments that you might have, and also talk a little bit about some next steps. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Derek, you see that okay? That's available for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. We are here to talk today about building a culture of gratitude with clinician engagement in philanthropy. And I think that you'll hear me say this time and time again over the course of my remarks today, is that clinicians are the key to the success of this program. The foundation has worked to develop partnerships and in an ongoing effort to develop more partnerships with clinicians, and allowing the foundation to become a part of the special and sacred relationship that clinicians have with their patients and families. And what we want to do from the foundation's perspective is to find opportunities to be part of that relationship, where we can look to allow patients to say thank you for the extraordinary compassionate care that you provide them on a regular basis. And being given permission to be part of those relationships with your patients and families is really the most important part of this program. And as Derek mentioned before, I do work for this organization called Global Group. We are healthcare philanthropy professionals. We've had the pleasure and privilege of being around for 11 years now, and have worked with hundreds of hospitals throughout the United States and Canada. And we offer all sorts of different products and services, but it really revolves around the fact that we work with foundations to partner with clinicians on the identification of grateful patients and families, and finding meaningful ways for them to say thank you for the extraordinary compassionate care that you provide them. And before we get into the program itself today, the presentation, just want to take this opportunity just to say thank you for being here today again. We know how challenging things are right now and have been over the past almost 2 years. Being a clinical practitioner at any time is challenging, but we have heard from your colleagues throughout the country that obviously the last couple of years have been particularly tough. And for you to take some time out of your busy schedule to be here today is greatly, greatly appreciated. So it's our hope and our goal today that we are able to demonstrate to you how philanthropy is more than money throughout the healthcare environment. And it's really about 3 things. It's about allowing grateful patients to express their gratitude. It's an integral part of the patient's clinical experience. And finally, it's not just a financial transaction, but an important component in a patient and family's healing journey. And while we are not doctors or clinical practitioners ourselves, what we hear from physicians we have worked with in the past is not only is this the most challenging time they've been in practice, but we know that life's not easy right now. And maybe perhaps you feel like you're burning the candle at both ends, and meeting with patients who are presenting with conditions that are even more challenging than ever before. And across all institutions, we see that physicians and clinicians are feeling the pressure of the healthcare environment. And maybe some of these things listed on the screen right now are things that you're seeing in addition to the patient care that you give. And that's why we feel that as healthcare providers face heavy demands in their work environment and healthcare systems that are in constant change and reorganization, we believe that it's important for healthcare workers to consider taking care of themselves first, so that they then are more present to take care of their patients. And it's this increased capacity to be with the whole person through patient-centered care that we believe invites the opportunity to deliver a safer, more compassionate, more joyful, and higher quality collaboration for the patients in your care. And with that, just want to kind of provide a scenario. Have you yourself ever thanked somebody for doing something that meant a lot to you, and maybe they sort of brushed it off? You know, maybe the thanks embarrassed them in some way, or maybe they honestly didn't realize how much it meant to you. But it might have made you feel a little bit like your appreciation wasn't valued, right? That it didn't mean that much to you, that it was rebuffed in some way. At the Global Group, we've come to learn that patients can feel the same way when they desperately want to say thank you to you for helping them or saving their lives or doing that for someone who they love. And you might say unintentionally, right? Oh, don't worry about that. We're just doing our job. Don't worry about saying thank you. So the purpose of the Grateful Patient Program we want to talk to you about today is how we can help you help patients and families say thank you in a way that fits for them. And that by cultivating gratitude and compassion and empathy in your own life, you can in turn increase the ability to focus on the patient and family, that suffering human being, so to speak, and practice that empathy and accept that gratitude. So it's our experience of working with your colleagues throughout the country that there are a number of concerns, right? When we talk to you about fundraising and philanthropy, you know, perhaps you're thinking some of the things that are here on the screen today. And we want to take a moment to kind of just unpack them a little bit so that you know and understand that we've heard this too, right? And we know that these might be concerns that you're feeling, but that we address them along the way to make sure that you have everything that you need to feel comfortable in the process. So just really quickly, you know, we want this program, the Grateful Patient Program, to not be transactional. It's not transactional at all. If anything, it's transformational, right? It's about patients and families taking control of perhaps what would be an uncontrollable health situation for them. And it's about exploring and celebrating their gratitude. We also take pains to make sure that this is a completely ethical and HIPAA compliant program. This is an opt-in, opt-out type of program. So for those patients and families who do not want to be a part of it, a part of this, working with the foundation, of course they don't have to. But when we engage with them, it's a completely HIPAA compliant way. We also want to make sure that you understand that this would never negatively impact the relationship that you have with your patients and families. In fact, we see that this can have a very positive, enabling relationship between clinicians and their patients and families, simply because it's not just focused on them as wealthy patients, but it's focused on them as grateful individuals. We also want to make sure that you understand that this is a completely foundation-led program, right? This is something that is owned by the foundation and its partners, 90-95% plus of the way, right? We will never place unmanageable expectations on your time or ask you to do anything considerably more than what you're doing. Because we want to make sure that we are providing an atmosphere where you're completely comfortable, that you have the education, tools, and resources, plus a trusted partner in the foundation for you to be able to bring them in as part of the relationships that you have with your patients and families. So, very directly, what clinician engagement is not, right? It's never about clinicians asking their patients for money, right? We know that this is not something that you want to do, that you're comfortable doing, that it's ethically appropriate. It's also not something that you're obviously trained to do. The foundation is trained to do those things at the appropriate time. It's also not about inequitable quality of care for some patients and not others, right? This is not a concierge program or a quid pro quo type of program, right? This is about, again, the exploration of gratitude and how that becomes part of the patient's healing experience. And then finally, it's not about identifying wealthy families, right? The foundation is not going to bring a list of your patients to you and say something like, all right, doctor, I know who has money on this list. Tell me who they are so I can go out and talk to them, right? This is about identifying gratitude from your patients and families, because we know how important gratitude is. So in the past, when foundations and hospitals and medical centers would get into the business of fundraising and philanthropy, what they would do is they would start with the wealthy people, right? So who are the wealthy people in our community and how do we get access to them? But while we never want to forget about those wealthy individuals, right? Those people who perhaps have been generous to the foundation and by extension, the hospital over the years. What this is it's very limiting in nature, right? There's only so many wealthy people in any community in the United States. And if they are known to be philanthropic, if they are known to be generous, all the other places who also have a philanthropic arm to their organization also know who they are, right? And they are also reaching out to them. And you could be the wealthiest person in the community, but if you're not aligned to the hospital or to your clinician through gratitude, you might not be interested in getting involved, or you might be interested in getting involved in perhaps a very transactional type of way. So it's very limiting in nature. But what we want to do is explore, how do we throw the net wider, right? How do we get more people involved? How do we get more people interested in providing support? We feel that you do this by not starting with the wealthy people, but by starting with the grateful people, right? So who are those individuals in the community who have had a passionate and extraordinary patient experience and are now strategically aligned to the hospital because they are grateful to their clinician for the care that they were provided? And how do we get access to them? And we feel we get access to them by the foundation exploring and enabling these strategic partnerships with clinicians, again, and to allow the foundation to be part of the story, to be able to have appropriate conversations with these patients and families. And what this does, and what the ultimate goal is the creation of what we call a culture of gratitude. And in a culture of gratitude at a hospital or medical center, everybody, regardless of their role, plays a part in helping to deliver that compassion and exceptional patient experience. So, anyone who works in environmental services, or they work in a cafeteria, they work behind the scenes in information technology, all clinical and non-clinical staff, up through the executive suite of the hospital, everyone plays an important part in delivering that patient experience. And what this is it's more inclusive in nature, right? And it's different from what might be in the past called a culture of philanthropy, right? And in a culture of philanthropy, no matter how hard we work to kind of change it, when people hear the word philanthropy, they think of money, right? And not everyone wants to be involved in a culture of philanthropy because they can't, they don't have the ability to do so, all sorts of different reasons. A culture of gratitude is more inclusive, right? It gets people more comfortable about participating. And what's really wonderful about gratitude is that it's the enabling behavior behind philanthropy, right? So philanthropy is one way that someone can express their gratitude in the form of money. Whereas in a culture of gratitude, there's all sorts of other different ways that people might be able to express their gratitude to be more inclusive in nature. So gratitude is the enabling behavior behind philanthropy. So by enabling and advancing gratitude, we ultimately end up with some people might choose to participate with their personal philanthropy. So this is our paradigm. This paradigm is the summary of our white paper. The white paper is the science and medicine behind the work that we do. And if you hadn't had a chance to take a look at this yet, I know that we can follow up with this white paper after the fact. It's about a 15, 20-minute read. It's based on 27 scientific and medical studies that prove this paradigm. So just to kind of take a minute just to unpack it a little bit. As I mentioned before, we believe that those clinicians who practice their own self mindfulness, compassion, and empathy can be more present to identify that in others and provide that extraordinary care that leads to people being grateful for it. And grateful people are looking for ways to give back, right? It's why, candy trays and cookie trays show up at nurses' stations during the holiday times, right? It's like note cards are exchanged, perhaps a bottle of wine or a bottle of alcohol sometimes that a patient might give to their doctor. These are ways that people are searching to say thank you to square that relationship with their clinician. Because we know that the people who are then allowed to give back in a way that's meaningful to them, it creates happiness in them. So think about in your own life, even either during the holiday times or during somebody's birthday who you care about. You go out and buy them a present, you wrap it lovingly, and you wait with anticipation to watch them open and enjoy that gift. Think about the happiness and joy that's created inside of you as the gift giver that might be even greater than the person who is receiving that gift, right? Those who give back, that creates happiness in them. And then happier people are healthier people, right? They go to their doctor's appointments, they eat right, they exercise, they take their medication because they want to lead healthier lives because of the happiness and joy that's inside of them. And round this paradigm goes, and it always begins and ends with the fact that somebody was delivered with a compassionate and exceptional patient experience that kind of started that gratitude train down the path. So with that, it's our hope that you might have a better understanding of why gratitude is so important to you as clinicians, and sometimes how philanthropy could be viewed as a transactional relationship to some administrators and clinicians. And because the foundation is involved, you might surmise that we are just looking to raise money from this program. And yes, we are certainly hopeful that some families would choose to make that decision at some point. But I want to make sure that I'm stressing that this program isn't about you asking your patients for money. The staff from the foundation will do that if that's one of the ways that that patient or family wants to express their gratitude. Because for patients and families, when they think about philanthropy, right, when they think about expressing their gratitude or giving back, for them, it's not transactional at all, right? It's not about writing a check or donating dollars or things like that. When grateful patients and families think about it, for them, it's transformational in nature, right? It's about being a part of something that's bigger than them. It's about squaring that relationship with that clinician and letting them know how grateful they are for the care that they have received. And we know that the number one reason that people give back is this gratitude. And it's not gratitude that a hospital building or the medication or the equipment. It's grateful to people, right? That patient as a person wants to say thank you to their clinician as a person, right? That humanistic approach to this process. People also choose to give back to make an impact, right? This is certainly evident over the past couple of years when the manifestation of the concept of a grateful community came to be, right? So it's people who may not necessarily have had their personal patient experience, but they see their healthcare heroes in their neighborhoods and in their community. And they want to collectively pool their gratitude and their resources to give back to make an impact on what the situation might be. People also give back to maintain relationships. So think about from the perspective of an inpatient, someone who's entering as an inpatient into the hospital. Clinically, that person might not know what the outcome is going to be, right? They might not know what's going to happen to them. And during this time, all of these individuals are coming into their lives and helping them through what might be an uncertain and very stressful time. When that person, at the end of their experience, when they're discharged to go home, they might not be ready to give up these relationships, right? They might want to maintain them in some way, and that's why they choose to give back. And then finally, even in the worst of outcomes, where perhaps the patient passes away, that grateful family wants to bring closure, find meaning, and create legacy in honor and in memory of that individual, because even though they might have passed away, they were still provided with that care, that exceptional care during their end of days. So this is a quick video. This is a grateful family, John and Jennifer, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about the reasons why they chose to give back.
Well, what motivates us to want to give is the staff here.
Sorry about that. I don't know why the video's not showing.
Well, what motivates us to want to give is the staff here, the people, the good feeling that we get from the people once we've given, and the biggest motivation came from the doctors and the nurses here with the fantastic treatment that not only her mom and my wife got, it was a family, and it was great. I mean, every time I turned around, somebody was helping me do something, and whatever it was, they were always there.
They really made us feel like a family.
Yeah, they made us feel like a family, and they made us want to give. That's the way the doctors are here. But if I could just tell one little story about one of the nurses, when my wife passed away and we were waiting for her to pass, they'd taken all the life support off. She came down to the emergency room on her day off, and she says, "Get your stuff together, we're going home." And I said, "What do you mean we're going home?" She took us back up to 4-H where Nina had spent a lot of her time, cleaned her up, and all the nurses that were on duty that day came by and kissed her goodbye. And if that doesn't inspire you to give, I don't know what does.
So obviously very powerful video here, grateful family and John and Jennifer, and just a couple of reasons why we like to show this video. Obviously, these John and Jennifer are grateful to the nurse who came in on her day off to help say goodbye to Nina. But also, these aren't, what I would call, millionaire, billionaire type people to me, right? Who knows, but these are the types of individuals where the foundation would never know about their gratitude unless they had a clinical partner to be able to recognize this gratitude and share this family with the foundation for then the foundation to be able to explore it. We also don't know how John and Jennifer chose to give back, right? They might have, thrown a pizza party for the nurses on 4-H, or they could have named a new cancer wing in the hospital. And in a culture of gratitude, what we're looking to do, those two things are the same, right? Dependent upon, who is giving it. But really what we're looking to do is find those clinical partnerships to trust the foundation and the individuals to be able to be having conversations with people like John and Jennifer, exploring their gratitude and finding the ways that they might want to celebrate how they want to give back. Because there was a study that concluded the following, right? That patients who have had a good experience, they want to express gratitude, not only based on clinical outcomes, but also because how caregivers communicated with them and treated them during the healthcare experience. And then patients who desire to express gratitude and then have it received correctly, which is what we're going to talk about in a moment, they can complete that act of saying thank you. They're also happier with their healthcare experience, which is really fascinating. So there are many ways that patients choose to give back, right? Because they want to express their gratitude but don't know how, right? So these are the types of kind of nonverbal expressions of gratitude that those clinicians on the call today, they probably have seen these and many, many others as to those ways that people are searching to give back. And just so we want to make it clear that this program itself, the clinician engagement part of the Grateful Patient Program, it's not about every patient, right? But it's about the right patients who are expressing gratitude in a way that is understandable for clinicians, right? It's about this idea of overt expressions of gratitude. And as I mentioned before, we've had the privilege of working with thousands of clinicians throughout the country over the past 11 years. And, I can pretty confidently say that, very broadly, very mostly, that the clinicians that we work with are a little bit uncomfortable with gratitude and that they might not necessarily know what to do with it. And when someone expresses gratitude in such an overt type of way, when someone would say something like, "Doctor, thank you so much for all you've done for me and my family. How can I ever say thank you?" A pretty typical response by a clinician is something like, "Oh gosh, don't worry about saying thank you. We're just doing our job." Or, "Don't worry about that. Let's just concentrate on getting your dad better." And what this can do in a very unintentional way, of course, simply because you might not just want to be placing another undue burden on somebody who's already going through a tough time, right? You didn't get into it for the accolades. But what it can do unintentionally is it can dismiss that person's gratitude, right? It can position the gratitude as not important to you. So what we want to do is we want to provide you with the opportunity to either in the moment, right, which some clinicians can do, or after the fact, either through a letter or through a digital strategy that you work with the foundation, is you would have the opportunity to send a message to that patient and accept that gratitude, right? It's a little turn of the knob, so to speak. And using language like, thank you, it's a pleasure and a privilege taking care of you. For those patients and families like yourselves who want to express their gratitude, I have a partner who I work with in our foundation, right? And Derek, right? Derek's an extension of our team. He's instrumental to our success here. And Derek helps my patients and families say thank you. I've given, can I have Derek give you a call? Or I've given permission for Derek to give you a call. And it's that little change in the acceptance of gratitude that could be the absolute game changer for just the number of patients and families that the foundation has been able to have conversations with. Because what it does, frankly, is it legitimizes the foundation, right? It positions them as a trusted partner in the work that you do. And what it also does is relieves clinicians of the burden of having to do something with their gratitude and it refers it over to the foundation and allows them to take it and then work it down the path as appropriate in conversations with patients and families. So these are the 3 simple I's of the program, and where we look to want to develop relationships with clinicians is, one is, can we work with you to identify patients who are saying thank you? And this is a two-way street, right? So this is something where, patients might be expressing gratitude to you, and you would give that name over to your foundation partner when you meet with them. And we can also bring you names, and we'll bring you names of patients who we've identified who might be, have inclination to want to get involved. And we will want to show you these names to see if you have a relationship with them, right? Is this somebody who would be appropriate to introduce me to? Because that's really what the game changer for this program can be, right? This is the keystone to the success of it, is that introduction. So not only the identification of patients and families, but then there's that introduction, right? And I mentioned before, the introduction can happen both in person, after the fact in a letter, or going through digital strategy, which are a couple the other arms of introduction that work really well for the foundation and for the clinical partners. And this isn't about every patient, right? This is probably who are the top 1 or 2 patients or families a month who hit a few criteria, right? One is they're overtly grateful to you. There's no question that they're grateful, right? 2 is, I would say that you have enough of a relationship with that patient that introducing the idea of talking to the foundation makes sense, right? It feels good, it's comfortable, it's not strange in any way. And then the third one is, is that patient in the right spot clinically to be able to be having these conversations with the foundation? Is it okay? Is it okay? And is that the right time? And what that does is it obviously protects you, it protects that patient, and also it makes sure that the foundation is reaching out to these patients' families at the right time, the appropriate time to be talking with them. And then finally, as conversations advance, can you remain involved in the process in a way that's comfortable for you, but also meaningful for your patients? So this is the simple process right here. Kind of a little bit of a diagram here that kind of shows us the way. Obviously the first one here is that the clinician cares for the patient, listens for gratitude. They then would find a time, date, and location of the clinician partner's preference, what fits their schedule, to connect at a short monthly meeting. And obviously this doesn't have to happen at a desk. This can be over a virtual environment. It could be over email, whatever makes sense and whatever is appropriate. And really those first 2 bullets are all that we're asking from our clinical partners. And then the foundation would take it from there. We would then follow up from that introduction, and hopefully for some patients and families, begin a conversation. And what would happen in kind of that first encounter, that first conversation with that patient and family is, the gift officer would talk to them a little about their grateful patient experience. What are you comfortable sharing? One of the ways that I learned more about the doctor that you and I have in common together is through the stories of his grateful patients. Can you tell me a little about your experience? 2 is, the gift officer would share a little bit about what's happening at Essentia Health, right? A little bit what might be happening with the service line, a project or something exciting that clinician might have going on that they can share with that patient and family. And then the third thing is explore their gratitude. Talk to them about the ways that they might be interested in giving back. There are all sorts of different ways that you can give back. Have you thought about how you might want to say thank you? And sometimes this can end up in a thank you note, right? Sometimes this can end up in an exceptional story that marketing communications might want to grab to push out on social media, newsletters, or other media. But what the program is designed to do is to find individuals in your community who are strategically aligned to the hospital because they are grateful, who had no idea that the hospital needed anything, or that their personal philanthropy could make a difference, right? They might not understand, philanthropy to healthcare. They might not understand how a hospital budget works, right? And that, everything's just paid for through the bills that me and other patients pay or our payers pay. But we know how philanthropy can make an extraordinary difference in healthcare. So part of this is explaining that if you are philanthropic in nature yourself, you give to your alma mater or your local boys and girls club or whatever it might be, that you can also honor your clinician by supporting something that he or she might need for future patients and families in their care. And if the patient brings the gift officer down that path, they're interested in that, They would then continue that conversation as appropriate, led by what their desire is. So this is one last video, and then I'll wrap up. This is Dr. Eldada, who's a clinician champion himself, and he'll talk a little bit about his perspective on grateful patient philanthropy.
And probably the most important lesson that I've learned is that philanthropy is not just a fiscal process that's simply dollars and cents that changes hands and lets buildings be built or facilities be improved, but it's actually an integral part of the healing process, of the caregiving process. I've come to learn that patients and families who want to give should never be dismissed. And the answer that, oh, don't worry, this is just my job, is very dismissive to people and actually off-putting in a way that's hurtful. That's somewhat counterintuitive. We might be thinking that we're relieving the patients of the burden of having to thank us, but in fact, their wanting to thank us is a way of getting better.
So a few recommended kind of initial steps for clinicians, kind of next steps is, can we explore the possibility of kind of further conversation with the foundation to discuss what process you might be comfortable with in that identification, introduction, and involvement. And, of course, using the different methods and ways at your choice, at your convenience, in which we can do that. Then secondly, are there members of your team that would also, you might think might be valuable in this process? One of the things that we often ask clinicians in this process is, who's instrumental to your success? Do you have a nurse or an administrator or somebody else that could help you with the identification of grateful patients and families? And this can help expand the circle of those people working in this program with the foundation. And then the possibility of regular conversations, right? Again, at a time, date, and location of your convenience, knowing how much you also have going on. But it's these regular conversations which can advance the program and really begin to develop an ongoing pipeline of grateful patients and families who want to express gratitude, allowing that gift officer to have conversations on an ongoing basis. And all these things are rooted in a few promises. One is that we'll never ask you to do anything that you're not comfortable with, right? No action will be taken under a referred patient under your care without your knowledge, right? Meaning that, that the foundation will communicate back to you effectively and efficiently about the plan for each referral, making sure that you remain in control of that situation, because we want to make sure that the conversations we're having with your patients and families, you're aware of what's going on so that you can control that situation however you would like. And then finally, the foundation partners with you to raise funds that support your programs or other organizational priorities based on donor interest, meaning that this is what's called a donor-centric type of program. So with that, Derek, I would like to pass it back over to you to kind of facilitate any questions and answers or comments.
Sure, thanks, Jason. And I do want to acknowledge my teammates with the foundation that are on the line with us today. So our next steps will be the individual from the foundation that invited you here today will reach out to you. We hope you have some questions today for us. We'll have a conversation moving forward. We want you to know that this is voluntary. We appreciate you learning a little more with us. We were fully implemented in 2019 throughout the system with the Grateful Patient Program. We had approximately 26 clinician champions engaged with the foundation at the time. And we respectfully paused throughout the pandemic because we just thought it was the best thing to do. But as Jason mentioned, we had a good deal of gratitude coming our way from patients. So I just wanted to quickly share a couple examples of how gratitude comes your way and how we get involved. The very first expression of gratitude that we had was in the form of a letter to an Essentia physician, and Robin is on the line with me. She's actually the development officer that worked with the donor. The letter said something like this: "We're so grateful for the care that my wife received, my children's mother received. If there's any way we can say thank you to you, we would be willing to do so. We were thinking maybe a way to honor her name might be nice." That's a summary of the letter. Robin worked with the family for a beautiful naming opportunity in our system in memory of this family's loved one. Sometimes it's not as direct. Sometimes it's simply a thank you that says, we'd like to do something to thank you for the good care. And then that referral is made into the foundation, and we explore how that individual wants to express their gratitude. It might be an in-kind gift to one of our Ronald McDonald houses or family room up in Fargo. We have a house in Duluth as well. Or it could be learning more about volunteer opportunities. Lastly, they can go right to Dr. Pryor or even Dr. Herman sometimes and say, thanks so much. We had a great experience. And this was the physician who was wonderful. We want to do something to say thank you. And then that referral kind of works our way. So then we're all involved with that grateful patient. So together we've been doing this work. Some is intentional, some is unintentional. My teammates that are on the phone with me today and our existing clinician champions really are the heartbeat of helping our patients express their gratitude. We recognize that not every patient expresses gratitude like this. So we simply have our ears and our hearts open, and we welcome your questions, and we thank you for your time today. All right, I think we have a hand up. Is that Michelle? You have your hand raised? No? Okay. Any questions? Comments from our team? Anything you'd like to add?
I can ask a question if that's okay. Sorry if I'm interrupting anyone who wants to add something. I think it's helpful to hear about how the foundation comes up with that list, because like it's bi-directional, right? So we tell you if we have a patient who has expressed gratitude, but I think it's helpful for clinicians to understand how those lists are generated from your end.
Great, Dr. Sudak, thank you so much. That's a good question because Dr. Herman and I really kind of were turned off by the old wealth screening that hospitals used to do. So when we engaged Global Group, we loved their predictive model for gratitude, which means that we have, I'm going to call them data bots that identify pockets of gratitude for us by patient and by department. That we are able then to review with clinician champions to see if there is a potential match, or if you have intel, or if perhaps it is a family or a individual that has expressed some sort of gratitude that we would want to reach out to. So specifically what the predictive model looks for is, are they a healthcare consumer with Essentia Health? How frequently they're going in and out of our hospitals and clinics? Are they a donor with the foundation? Are they somehow engaged with our affiliated foundations? If not, are they charitably inclined or philanthropic inclined, not wealthy? Do they like to give to charity? And then the fourth is, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, did they care enough to complete a patient survey? Not the details about what they said, but did they care enough to complete a patient survey? And Dr. Sudak, those really are what we would consider to be like the components that make up the gratitude score. And then with the clinician champion, we can share with you what we might know about that particular patient. And then you have the opportunity to chime in and say, yes, I do think that they might be interested in a conversation based on a couple of things they've said, or no, that doesn't sound right to me. Let's hold on that one. Jason, anything else on the predictive model?
No, that there doesn't. Great explanation, and just to reiterate, I think that obviously we're discovering these things based on also information that's in the that's in the EMR, and everything is is covered and protected under patient privacy. But I think one of the important thing about the discovery of these names is, yes, the algorithm is telling us that they have indicators of experience. They have a good experience, but it's then bringing those names to that clinician champion to say, yes, a real relationship exists here, that would make sense to reach out to this person. So we want to bring those names to the clinicians to get them to read and react to what the reality is on the ground. But we find that very typically, we can discover patients who perhaps you might not have been thinking about, and we could use those names. And then what we try to do is use that as a tool, and then kind of partnering with the clinicians to use that as a tool. And when they're thinking about who these other patients that we're not discovering through the algorithm that might have indicated that might be grateful directly to you. So it's more that maybe the people you're saying yes to, more patients like that, and less patients that you might be saying no to. So that's why we want to use this as a tool to establish a back and forth relationship with our clinician champions. That's a great question. Thank you.
So Jason, just to repeat, our next step really is to continue the conversation. The individual who invited you to be here today will reach out to you to see what your thoughts and feelings are. And should you decide to move forward and learn more, we would have a little more of a formal training. You also would have the opportunity to maybe even meet with a development officer and an existing clinician champion at Essentia to just kind of see how the work has gone. We have some physicians that have been with us from the very beginning now. And we are currently always on a rolling basis to invite new physicians to work with us. But we did take a gentle pause throughout the pandemic because we wanted to be respectful of everyone's time and our real concentration, which is the patient and the family. All right, if we don't have any other questions, thank you. We hope you have a great day and create some joy today in your own way. And we hope that this was informative. So thank you very much.